Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite aos internautas que nos acompanham neste programa Nanoalerta, hoje no seu número 161. Fazemos este programa dedicado ao público não especialista, porque é este público que paga as pesquisas sobre nanotecnologia realizadas no Brasil. Também fazemos este programa porque é aqui que nós podemos discutir os impactos da nanotecnologia na sociedade, no meio ambiente, na saúde, na economia, coisa que não são discutidas aonde se faz nanotecnologia no Brasil. Por fim, fazemos este programa porque acreditamos que ser livre é ser bem informado e a divulgação científica contribui e colabora para o aprofundamento da democracia e da cidadania no Brasil. Conforme tínhamos anunciado, estamos conectados diretamente com Singapura, com o Instituto de Medicina Ocupacional, com o Dr. Michael Riediker, que será o nosso entrevistado de hoje. Eu vou pedir a ele para se apresentar e depois ele vai começar a apresentação de hoje. Ok, Michael. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Paolo, for your kind invitation to the show. I'm a researcher working for the Institute of Occupational Medicine and located in Singapore. Our IOM is an international operating non-governmental organization that does multidisciplinary research and consultancy, and we are totally independent and have a charitable status, so we are not for profit. Our headquarters in the UK. And myself, I'm doing now for about 13 years already nanotechnology research, and I'm especially looking at questions of nanomaterial safety and health. My background is training in occupational and environmental hygiene. That's the science that looks at how people get exposed and how it interacts with human health.
Okay, you can start your contribution for today.
Okay, thank you. So the topic of today is the dossiers of the OECD WPMN. So OECD, that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And they have a working party for manufactured nanomaterials. That means experts from the different participating countries in OECD. They work together with their local research institutes for the last about 10 years to assess 11 different types of nanomaterials thoroughly regarding their toxicological and ecotoxicological hazard. This testing profile started back in 2007, as mentioned, and 2 years ago these first results of this testing program were published. Now, for a while these dossiers just sat there. It was over 15,000 pages of data that were put online. Some initial assessments suggested that there are some data disparities that deserve further attention. So there were some criticisms about that the data sources are mixed and not very clearly distinguished between scientific literature data and corporate testing, and about also the data quality was not always fully clear regarding the methods of validation and standardization. OECD itself didn't draw any conclusions directly with regard to the dossiers, though of course they have released in the meantime several new test guidelines and recommendations regarding nanomaterials. So what we aim to do in this assessment of the dossiers, we want to see how useful the data could be for regulatory or other risk management purposes. While OECD states that this is not intended for regulatory, we still wanted to know whether it could form the basis, whether people could look into the dossier to inform themselves where we are with this regard. We also wanted to understand more whether the data could actually guide by research analysis existing and developing new protocols and testing guidelines. So could the dossier data be useful for further developments? The approach we chose was that we first did a screening of all the dossiers, all 15,000 plus pages, including all the annex documents, which is another big pile of data. And we then looked at the refined analysis of 3 dossiers against 3 different materials, and at the end we draw initial conclusions and also make databases available for interested parties to further assess the data that we put into databases. You realize already the data that OECD published was in the form of PDF documents and quite unstructured, so it was not readily available for analysis, but it needed, on our side, manual input. So we now look at how the data is presented in these dossiers. It has a section of physical chemical properties. So we wanted to know there, in this first stretch of the analysis, was it just done? And did they document what guidelines and methods they used? There's a second part on manufacturing, use, exposure, environmental fate. So we wanted to know, do they describe release or exposure data? Do they describe who gets exposed? Because there are chapters that describe this, you want to know this. Are there routes of exposure and about timing questions? I can only now say that this part of the dossier is empty. It turns out that these are indeed just placeholder chapter titles. There is nothing behind these chapter titles. OECD has used a international uniform data reporting format called Euclid, and they forgot to mention next to their titles that these are just placeholders, so that the numbering of the different reporting format titles will change. And finally, we looked at the ecotoxicology and toxicology data regarding what endpoints that were used, what species, what cell types, what doses, and whether there are any T-scan characterization done as part of that testing.
Okay, about the toxicology, and
yes.
you think that the theoretical framework that the toxicology in general is good for application in nanotoxicology?
Actually, this is part of the question that the OECD working party had when they started this initiative, or it was one of their key questions. Are the existing test methods applicable? It's also many research projects looks into this question, and we know that in many cases, if you just apply standard methods, you can go wrong. So let's take an example. A chemical substance, if you want to prepare a solution, like if you want to make a so-called dilution series. So you take your initial substance, put it to a first container, you add water, for example, you shake well, and then you use that for making your next dilution. You dilute down. Now, if you have nanoparticles, if you're not careful how you prepare your dispersion, you risk that everything agglomerates in your liquid, sediments to the ground of your container, and then each transfer that you make into the next vessel will be just transferring water. and not actual nanomaterial. So we know from the beginning of research in this field that how you prepare your dispersions or your other preparations like feed or aerosol is very critical for correct assessment.
Okay, you can continue.
Okay, so now when we look at these dossiers, we saw that in total 131 different test guidelines are described. There are predominantly in the toxicology field, but there are also some in the physical-chemical methods and some environmental methods. As mentioned, there is no exposure and there is no question on residues in food and livestock was assessed. We saw that 65 of the guidelines, so about half, were guidelines from OECD, and of these 26 were so-called deviations. Unfortunately, in the dossier itself, it does not describe well what type of deviations were done and the reason for these deviations. So you have to look further for the raw data, for the original source, which in many cases will be able to find what the role is. But we can say that OECD did not restrict itself to their own guidelines, but they looked beyond. They looked at also at other guidelines, and some of them are actually nanospecific.
Okay.
Now, when we look now just at the completeness of the endpoints, this is a picture that you get. It's a very busy graph. The key point is that you have here columns. Each column is another of these 11 materials, so CO dioxide, dendrimers, fullerenes, gold, modular carbonatubes, nanophase, silver, silicium dioxide, single carbonatubes, titanium dioxide, zinc oxide. And then each line is a different test that was applied. You have ecotoxicology testing is in the upper part, and toxicology is in the lower part.
You think that there are another important nanomaterials that is not in this research?
I mean, there are of course thousands, if not tens of thousands, of nanomaterials existing. So it's understandable that there are OECD cannot test every single material. The choice of OECD for these 11 materials was that these were at the moment that OECD decided on which materials to take. These were already imported materials on the market.
Okay.
Oops. Are you still seeing everything?
Start again.
Okay.
Yeah. Ending point.
Yeah, I tried to, my PowerPoint doesn't like me right now. Okay, so if we now look at the closer at this endpoint completeness, do you see the screen? The complete screen?
It is again in the first screen.
Okay. Okay, is this better? Okay, yeah.
Now is, yes, now is the 10. Number 10 and the
I will try to avoid using the pointer. I think it was a bit much for my tool. So, about the endpoint completeness, when we look at this, we see that in this graph we saw that about half of the dossiers have only very few endpoints assessed. Then we have, just if you look again at this graph, we have actually quite a reasonable coverage of the aquatic endpoints. We have also moderate coverage of terrestrial, but poor coverage of more complex ecotoxicological endpoints. In the toxicological section, we see again that the simple test methods are quite well covered, and the more complex, if that's the more difficult the testing methods get, and the more expensive also, the less of the materials that actually become endpoints covered. So we see specifically no coverage of carcinogenic endpoints, and we see poor coverage of long-term effects in general. And also human toxicology is very poor. That is, of course, the human toxicology is for part also explained that you cannot suspect humans too many nanomaterials as long as you're not near or if you suspect that they may have negative effects. So that shouldn't be immediately a negative one.
For long-term effects, how many years do you think that is necessary to do the research?
Well, I would say that the human toxicity, the task is really, we have to do a lot of the human toxicity by looking at accidental exposures and by doing epidemiological research on workers and also the general population if they are exposed significantly to nanomaterials. So human data is still the key to confirm that we are on the safe side. So if we assume on the basis of animals, on animal results or on cell toxicity results that we are on the safe side with certain protective measures, with certain levels, we need to confirm this with human data. So if we do a human epidemiological study with correct positive control particles for the methodology, and we find no effects, then we have the confirmation it's safe. Or at least we don't find anything that is as bad as the positive control part.
Okay.
Now, if we now want to look at the risk assessment, we have to think of risk as being a combination of hazard and exposure. What's important is now that for the nanomaterials, we're talking about a number of characteristics. So if we have number, size, surface, volume, or mass, functionalization of the particle, these dimensions like whether they are fibers or round particles or plates, and also, of course, the chemical composition. And we need to have information about how these go along, these properties go along with the hazard, and we need also to know about whether we have the exposure data. So this is just if we don't have these characteristics, it will make our life very difficult to assess the risk properly for these nanomaterials. I mentioned before that OECD actually did not look at the exposure question. So by looking only at the dossier, it's quite logical that we cannot assess the risk. But of course, the dossiers are not the only place where we can look up the exposure. And of course, regulators do have other ways to estimate the exposure, and also researchers, they can investigate what is exposure of different populations. So we can look at published literature if you want to build up exposure scenarios, and then there are also governmental researchers, inspectors, especially in some countries, there are very active governmental employees in developing exposure situations.
So this research from OECD is incompletely or incompletely?
Well, you can say that the dossiers, they don't have complete information about exposure. There are chapters that say there is exposure on different subchapters, but these chapters, they are in principle empty.
Yeah, so
in my view, OECD had no intention to collect that data. So I think it would have been nice if they had written in each of these chapters just a sentence that explains that this chapter is is intentionally empty. We did not intend to collect this data. Please refer to locally collected exposure data, something that's dire. The exposure chapter comes quite early in the Euclid nomenclature, so in this standardized international format to report information on chemicals.
So OECD want not to speak about risk.
In their dossiers, they are not, they did not complete, collect the complete information that you need to do the risk assessment. They look at the hazard description.
Okay.
So we have to assume that we do have exposure data, and we have to develop on that. I would just like side remark, I think it's a pity that OECD completely ignored exposure, because you need exposure scenarios to understand which are relevant concentration ranges. If you are too high with your exposures in the toxicity testing, you may find, you may activate other pathways than you may activate when you are at lower concentrations. So there is, if you want to do risk assessments, you have to be very careful that you verify whether the pathways that you are, whether the concentrations and the pathways you're looking at are actually relevant for your exposure scenario.
And you need more money to do.
Of course, there is money needed to do the exposure scenario description, but actually it is not very costly compared to the massive toxicology hazard testing. So it's, I think it's not the money that is the deciding point, but rather that people agree that exposure is also important to be systematically assessed.
So the money was not the central problem.
I mean, I can't speak for OECD because I'm not a member of the OECD working party, but I mean, if I look at the costs, I can't believe that money was a deciding point.
Okay.
Now, a part of the dossier contains for each of the tests a so-called CLINI score. The CLINI score gives you information whether the test as done is directly can be used if you are developing a dossier for regulatory approval of a substance. So usually CLINI score 1 and CLINI score 2 are directly relevant for regulatory purposes. If you now look at the data is collected, we see that about 51% seem directly useful. So there are studies that were done by food quality labs that follow laboratory practice or similar, and that meet different criteria of this score. The other results are having deviations or that are, for example, not done by certified labs that are or that are literature reviews. There are some, it seems, some inconsistencies. So, in principle, a literature review should not get a CLINI score 1 or 2, but it seems that some of the literature reviews actually were rated like that. So, you have to be careful and double check that the CLINI score is really correct in these. That means again we have to go to the raw data. But I don't think it will change the overall picture. There are some cases that are different, but overall it's about this. About half of them directly, the other half you will be able to inform your risk assessment.
Okay, I am in doubt about the blues. 41% is without Clemens score?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh.
So these are studies that were not assigned by OECD or by the members of OECD with the previous score. It doesn't mean that they would not be, you would not necessarily be able to assign a previous score, but they are just not scored.
Okay.
Now, this is so far like the overall view of the dossiers. Now, we wanted to look now the next step about the characteristics that were assessed, and we should talk about nanomaterial characterization for risk assessment purposes. You want to understand how was the data generated that is the hazard data. You have on one side the raw material, so it's the way that nanomaterial is produced in the factory. But then you take this material and you prepare it for your test, so you may generate a dispersion, or you will generate feed, if you do a feeding test, or you will make the aerosol if the particles are inhaled. And then the material will change in this preparation step, or it may change. And also during and after the test, it's actually good if you can do this testing. So we wanted to know what is done. We know already from the overview that there is a detailed chemical characterization of the material itself at the beginning of the dossier, that about the 1/6 of the dossier is just about the characterization of the raw material. And we wanted to know, was this done? Did the study authors actually describe how they prepared the test dispersions, and what characteristics did this test dispersion have? So, for example, we wanted to know about the chemistry. Was this looked at? So, do we have still the same chemistry in this version? What kind of nanoscale descriptors are there? Do they tell us something about aggregate and aromatic formation, the morphology, the particle size, the distribution, mass, surface, and particle number quantification? These properties can change while you make the dispersion or another preparation, and you want to know where and to what extent this was described. And then also the circumstances of the test. We want to know if there are even any details in the matrix, the dispersion, how the solvent is done, the translational material, physical chemical performance, exposure duration, exposure frequency.
So he have a protocol to do this.
There are for some of the test guidelines, and there are also in for some of the toxicity testing in research. There are some protocols available, but I would say there is currently not for all the OECD test guidelines nanospecific recommendation around. But we have, especially researchers, have done a lot of publications now on how to correctly prepare dispersions of aerosols, and we have also quite some methods that describe how these preparations can be described. So basically we have components together that are needed to at least describe how things were done. Whether the test guidelines and the toxicity itself are already optimized for this, that's another question. And I think that is something that will not get there for some of the tests. For other tests we are already okay.
Okay.
Now, if you look at the dossiers, we looked at zinc oxide, single bond carbonyl groups, and cerium oxide. Sorry, the fullerenes, of course, we changed. Yeah. So we looked at zinc oxide, single bond carbonyl groups, and fullerenes. And these are the three pictures that you obtain when you look at these dossiers. You see that some of the dossiers are not very complete, like fullerenes. They are few tests actually only done. There are few toxicity tests and done, and in between you see big gaps. So totally white like this one means there is no test done at all. Now we marked here in different shades of green to what extent the dossiers contain, this dossier having the endpoint studies actually contain the description of this. What you see in this full-array dossier, for example, is that there are many in this light green. Totally light green means there is 0% of the endpoint studies in the OECD dossier describe something about this. So you have chemistry and nanoscale descriptors, big gaps. So the nanoscale descriptor basically just says the mass, and the chemistry just basically tells the composition and also the purity. So we miss very important nanoscale descriptors in the full array dossier. The situation in the single carbonated is not much better. And also in the single cycles, we have quite incomplete information that is nanospecific. In all three dossiers, we have quite a description of the circumstances. Now, if you combine, just overlap all of this together, we can say that we have a quite good range of test methods, if there are 5, but the nanospecific description is very poor. We did also a subsampling of all the dossiers in the stratified approach, so that we make sure that the different groups of toxicity testing are represented in this randomized sample, and that we have all the materials proportionally tested or assessed. And we see also there, we see basically the same picture. The OECD has a very good overall coverage across all the test methods, but the nanospecific descriptors are poor. So we can already tell just by looking at this data structure that those years represent a major effort to collect toxicity and ecotoxicity data on relevant engineered nanomaterials, relevant in the sense of these nanomaterials that are today already on the market and available sometimes in big quantities. But as mentioned, there's almost no documentation of nanospecific characteristics. Yet the nanocharacteristics that are either in the dossiers are only raw material utilization. You can say, yes?
Yeah, about the very little exposed dates. Do you think that he have some tools, some forms to produce these dates?
I get actually to this. Yes, this is actually something that it is like 2% of the dossiers contain nanospecific characterization. And it is not really, it didn't seem from the beginning logical to be that none of these labs would ever have characterized. It can happen that you have some private labs that just follow standard chemical testing guidelines, that they may ignore that they are doing major error. But it would not make sense that someone like a body like OECD would do massive testing. So we had already in our initial report mentioned that we suspect that there may be actually a failure to report, not just that there's no assessment. And Actually, I advance already a bit later on. I will describe a study that was done by colleagues, just recently published a few weeks ago, which assessed that we need, at least in one dossier that they looked at, OECD just failed to report the complete data.
Because I think two or 3 years ago, I have the interview one researcher from Netherlands, and he was making research in the industry, and he was in that time try to have numbers about the how many nanoparticles there are in this place in the industry, and he in that occasion had one equipment that can measure this. I don't know this is now it's better or is very common, this kind of the equipment.
Yes, okay, you're touching basically another question. It's about how to assess exposure at the workplace. Until, I would say, maybe 5 years ago, it was very difficult and very expensive to get equipment. What we have now, in the last couple of years, seen a series of quite easy to use and good quality products come to the market that cover a wide range of nanoparticle size ranges. So if you are not dealing with like the normal type of nanoparticles that are in the size range of about 20 to 100 nanometer, then you have no problem finding material detectors that measure them and that are quite inexpensive and very easy to use.
Okay.
If you want to go below 20 nanometers, it starts to get a bit more complicated, a bit more expensive. If you want to go below 10 nanometers, then you are again with expensive devices that require quite some expertise. So definition, the most commonly used definition of nanomaterials goes from 1 nanometer to 100 nanometers. The lowest, the smallest part, you still have problems finding easy to use equipment, and I think that will stay there for quite some time. But it doesn't mean that we are able to collect such information, and companies that do have such particles, they just have to get in touch with professionals that do have the equipment and help them assess the exposure.
Okay.
Now, I go back basically just an initial conclusion was, I mentioned already that the dossiers alone are insufficient to assess the risk overall, the global risk. But that was never the purpose of the dossiers or of OECD. So they were here to provide tools to assess the hazard side. And a second point, I think it's indeed that the dossiers themselves are insufficient to really look at with any statements regarding nanospecificity of observed hazard data. So we cannot actually assess on the dossier basis whether the test guidelines that were adopted for assessing nanohazards, whether the databases for that is correct. So you have to look into the test guideline comments, you have to look into publications that are behind the dossiers to find out whether this was done correctly. I think it's not very user-friendly, but it is something that you can overcome. And finally, also the same is basically, if you just look at the dossier, you cannot exclude that artifacts are around that actually would completely invalidate the data that is there. Again, we had this question. I mentioned that we seem to have poor reporting, at least in one case. There is a Swiss team led by Novak. It's an article by Schmutz et al. Published this just a few weeks ago in Environmental Science Nano. And they basically did the analysis of the data source behind the dossier. And their analysis shows that most of the original reports that they were able to find seem to have followed good practices for nano experiments. So, at least in the NanoSynth dossier, we can say that this sub-analysis that was done, that it seems really that OECD may have chosen a non-adequate reporting strategy. My first suspicion regarding the reporting strategy is that at one moment, OECD decided, the working party decided to make this publicly available, and it seems they chose the Euclid format, which by itself is a good decision, but they forgot their own guidelines or their own insights that they had obtained in the nanomaterial characteristics and properties, and they just did not tell their partners and their labs to include also the non-specific information. I think it's a major oversight that makes out of a very interesting data collection something like a literature list, and you are then forced to go into the original sources to find out what's actually non-relevant. It's a strange ending of a major plausible effort.
Okay, this conclusion about the a non-adequate reporting strategy. You told that is from OECD, but it's from the people, researchers from OECD, or is a political decision of OECD?
I was not part of the meetings of OECD, but I cannot imagine that OECD would make a political decision to provide the data in a dossier format that is then not really directly usable, but that it forces people to look into the original study reports. A good part of the data sources of the dossiers are publicly available. So there's nothing that tells me that they try to cover up something. To me, it looks just some people, or the people that were responsible for dossier creation must have done some major error when they decided what to put there. It seems to me like they just overlooked that nanospecific information belongs into the dossiers so that they are really complete in the sense of providing to the worldwide community a very useful database for further assessment. Right now, if somebody wants to further assess the data, it's not enough to look at the OECD dossiers, they have to look into the raw data. So basically I could have done the literature review just on each of these dossiers, and then I would have probably found a good part of all of these studies, plus also more recent findings.
So you think that the people that decide this way for this report of the OECD, the people doesn't know about these gaps that you make the identification in the report?
I think that people I must have forgotten, just plain forgotten, that none of the characteristics have to be reported as part of the dossiers. There is Euclid is a standardized format for reporting such data for chemicals, and somewhere along the path it seems to have been forgotten that this belongs into the dossiers. I cannot see any other reason. Because there's all the data, and if you want to look at it, you will find it. You can't find all this information by going deeper, at least for the published data.
Okay. You can continue.
So, now, I have basically the key recommendation that I have to OECD, or maybe you could also call it WISH, OECD is consider to fill the gaps that are dossier. At least if you continue to publish data, why not publish it directly for the database, and why not publish in a way that the non-specific data is actually also reported. Another thing is that we have also real gaps that there is actually no data behind, and these are the more important things. Because these require funding, serious funding. It's the long-term and the complicated effect studies in both the toxicity and intertoxicity dossiers. There are still very few, or in some cases not any of the data around, and it needs the commitment and coordinated strategy of these countries to advance our knowledge in this field. The next thing I hope that OECD can look is that they make a test guideline that defines really characteristics what would have to unfunctional nanomaterial test results. So my suggestion is that for preparation of this, global size functionalization of materials should be described. In addition, of course, to the chemical properties of the mass. Then it would be great if OECD could call and support the build-up of widely accessible exposure registries and databases. And it would be good to look at ways how such databases can be fed with routine measurement data that are done by industries and governments in a way that the data can be anonymized so that researchers worldwide, also companies that want to create exposure scenarios, can have access to a wealth of data. So that could also be something that maybe OECD could either set up some thinking groups, or they can help those who already build out such dossiers. This is like the large group that built the NESI database. Next, I suggest that we continue the efforts to test the appropriateness of existing testing guidelines. We map all the test guidelines. We also need to think of test guidelines. Another operations, such as aerosols, dispersions, and feeding. OECD has started this. We just need a more concrete set of sub-test guidelines. So these are recommendations to OECD. Now, if you are a company that is either producing nanomaterials or that is producing data on the testing, my suggestion is to use test the properties. Test in the sense of that either bodies like OECD or national governments, but also high-quality research groups follow test the protocols you are using as a test ISO, ONZE, or other international or national bodies, make sure that they are labeled as being designed for nanomaterials. If they were not labeled or designed for nanomaterials, go back to point one and find out whether other people want to look that they are suitable for nanomaterial testing. Also, when you report findings, for example, it's 88 sheets, make sure that you provide now specific properties all along testing, that you tell what was actually tested. It is important to know in what form material was delivered to the test organism. And finally, think risk. So, if you want to do something for your customers or for your workers, you have to include exposure scenarios, and you have to make sure that the test data is actually a good match to the exposure scenario that you provide.
About this point, do you know if it's some regulation in Europe or another countries or region put the obligation for the companies do this kind of the developer worker and custom exposed scenarios?
In Europe, we have actually there's one group that really, let's see, leading the efforts is the PEROSH group that is also, it's like call it association of institutions that look at occupational safety health, and they are behind the new massive database. It's a database on exposure scenarios that is going, or they plan to go live with this in the coming months. And I can hardly wait to finally see this come to fruition. The talk about this already for many years. There were many groups, many meetings of them, and many discussion rounds about the ontology of this database or how exactly things have to be described. And they come up with a very comprehensive database that allows many entries, doesn't require all of them, but allows a very detailed entry of exposure scenario. So hopefully many people worldwide will start feeding this database with high quality data so that we can soon start to build our exposure scenarios on the basis of rich data, because this is actually still a problem. We have only a slow stream of exposure data being published continuously, and we need much more exposure data to really get a good understanding of risk.
Okay.
Now, I was just like, I have one last slide. I need to mention this, that the study that we did, while we are in Karlsruhe, I need to mention that we were funded by SIEL, ECOS, and ECO-Institut, because they wanted to know what the dossiers look like. They were aware of these data disparities, and they wanted to have an independent, impartial analysis of these dossiers. And it was very great also to work with them in the discussions when we present the interim findings, and I appreciate their funding for this study.
Yes, thank you so much for your contribution. I think he will have new opportunities to your new contributions for our program, and when you have some research that you have conclusion about your research, you can show for us here. Okay?
Okay, yes, I look forward to share with you again in the future the findings of my research. And actually, we have exciting new research projects starting here in Singapore, and hopefully in 1 or 2 years I'll be able to share first findings about that with you, and
Okay. Thank you so much. We continues by contact by email. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Thank you. Bye bye.